The morning sky over New Chicago was orange again. Marcus Chen looked up from his workbench and frowned at the color bleeding through the thick windows of the underground workshop. Orange meant the air filters above ground were working overtime. Again, another dust storm was coming. He turned back to the broken water purifier on his table. The machine was old, like everything else they had left. Parts were hard to find. Everything had to be fixed and fixed again. Marcus had been an engineer before the world started dying. Now he was whatever people needed him to be, the workshop. Door slid open with a grinding sound. Sarah burst in, her face red from running. She was only 12, but she ran messages between the underground sections faster than anyone else. "Marcus! The council wants everyone in the main hall right now." She gasped. "The aliens are here." Marcus set down his tools. Everyone had been talking about the aliens for weeks. Radio signals from space. Ships detected at the edge of the solar system. First contact with another species. Some people were excited, others were afraid. Marcus just wanted to know if they could help fix the water purifiers. The main hall was packed. 300 people lived in this section of the underground city. They were the lucky ones. The air was clean here. The walls were strong. Above ground, the radiation storm still killed anyone who stayed out too long. Council leader Thompson stood on the small stage at the front. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. Behind him, a large screen showed images from space. Strange ships, long and silver, hanging in orbit above Earth. "The Galactic Federation has made contact," Thompson said. His voice was steady, but Marcus could hear the worry underneath. "They have made us an offer." The crowd went quiet. Even the children stopped talking. "They say Earth is dying. They say we have maybe 50 years before the atmosphere completely fails. The radiation will get worse. The storms will get stronger. They say we cannot save our world." A woman in the front row started crying. Her husband put his arm around her. Marcus knew them. They had lost their son in a radiation storm last month. "But they offer us hope," Thompson continued. "They will. Take us to new worlds, clean worlds. Worlds where we can breathe the air and drink the water. Worlds where our children can play outside under a real sun. What do they want in return?" Someone shouted from the back. Thompson paused. "They want workers. We would join their federation as a member species. We would work in their mines, their factories, their farms. They say it is honest work. They say we would be treated fairly." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. He had heard this kind of talk before. Back when there were still nations and governments. Rich countries offering help to poor ones, but always wanting something back. Always wanting more than they gave. "How many ships do they have?" asked Dr. Martinez. She ran the medical section. "Enough for most of us," Thompson said. "They say they can take 8 billion people. They will start with the youngest and healthiest, then families, then skilled workers. And the rest?" Dr. Martinez pressed. Thompson looked down at his hands. "They say there is not room for everyone. They say some must stay behind to help with the evacuation. To keep the cities running until the end." The hall erupted in angry voices. People shouting. Questions, demands, fears. Marcus stayed quiet and listened. He had heard enough. Old Pete, who ran the machine shop, stood up slowly. The noise died down. Everyone respected Pete. He had been fixing things since before Marcus was born. "What if we say no?" Pete asked. Thompson looked surprised. "No?" "Pete, they are offering to save our species. To give us a future among the stars." I asked, "What happens if we say no?" "And they stay here, and we die with our world." Pete nodded slowly. "How long do we have to decide?" 1 week. Then they begin. The evacuation. The meeting broke up into smaller groups. People arguing, crying, planning. Marcus walked back to his workshop alone. Sarah followed him. "Are you going with them?" she asked. Marcus sat down at his workbench. The broken water purifier was still there, waiting. "I don't know. My mom says we have to go. She says I need a chance at a real life." Marcus picked up his tools. "What do you think?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I think they look at us like we're broken." Like we're things that need fixing instead of people who can fix things. She was smart, this kid. Smarter than a lot of the adults. Over the next few days, Marcus watched his community tear itself apart. Families fighting about who should go and who should stay. Young people eager for adventure and new worlds. Old people who couldn't bear to leave the only home they had ever known. The Federation sent down representatives. They looked human, but wrong somehow. Too perfect, too clean. They wore clothes that never got dirty and breathed the poisoned air without masks. They answered questions with calm voices and patient smiles. Marcus asked one of them about the work conditions on the Federation worlds. The alien's smile never changed as he described mining operations that ran 20 hours a day, and factory shifts that lasted for weeks. He talked about housing blocks that held thousands of workers and food that was nutritious but bland. He made it sound reasonable, necessary, temporary, and after we prove ourselves? Marcus asked, after we show we can work hard and follow rules? Then, you become full citizens, the alien said. Your children will have the same opportunities as any Federation species. How long does that usually take? The smile flickered for just a moment. Every species is different. The Keth took 200 years to earn full citizenship. The Vorlon are still working toward it after 3 centuries. Marcus thanked him and walked away. 200 years. 300 years. Generations of humans working as servants while they waited for permission to be treated as equals. That night he found Sarah in the observation dome. She was looking up through the thick glass at the alien ships in orbit. They glowed with soft lights against the stars. Beautiful, aren't they? She said. Yes, Marcus agreed. Very beautiful. My mom signed us up today. We leave next week on the second transport, Marcus nodded. He had expected this. Sarah's mother was sick. The radiation had gotten to her lungs. She needed clean air and medical treatment the aliens could provide. I'm staying, Marcus said quietly. Sarah looked at him. Why? Marcus thought about the water purifier on his workbench. About old Pete teaching him to fix engines when he was Sarah's age. About the vertical farms they had built in the lower levels. And the air scrubbers that kept them alive and the fusion reactor they had rebuilt from spare parts after the old one failed. Because someone needs to keep the lights on, he said finally. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood on the surface for the first time in months. He wore a radiation suit and breathed bottled air, but he wanted to see the ships leave. Wanted to watch 8 billion of his fellow humans disappear into the sky, chasing the promise of clean worlds and new lives. The ships were even more beautiful up close, silent and graceful as they lifted away from Earth's dying surface. Marcus watched until they were just points of light, then darkness dotted around him. Maybe 1 million humans had chosen to stay. The sick, the old, the stubborn, the scared. The ones who couldn't bear to leave, and the ones who wouldn't bow their heads to live as servants. Marcus took off his helmet and breathed the poisoned air of Earth. It tasted like metal and smoke, but it was home. They would probably all die here, but they would die free. He walked back toward the entrance to the underground city. There was work to do, a world to fix. And maybe, if they were very lucky and very clever, a future to build that no one expected. The stars watched silently as humanity's remnant disappeared back into the Earth, written off by the galaxy as another failed species choosing extinction over survival. They had no idea what humans could accomplish when they had nothing left to lose. 50 years had passed since the last Federation ship disappeared into the void. Sarah Chun, now 62 and gray-haired, stood in the same observation dome where she had watched her mother leave. But the view had changed completely. Above ground, green hills rolled toward the horizon under a blue sky. Real grass grew in the sunlight. Birds flew between the trees that had been planted decades ago. The orange dust storms were just a memory now. The radiation counters clicked softly instead of screaming warnings. Sarah smiled as she watched her grandson David run across the field outside. He was 8 years old and had never worn a radiation suit, had never breathed from a bottle or hidden underground during storms. To him, this was just how the world worked. Hard to believe, isn't it? Sarah turned to see Marcus walking up behind her. He was 93 now, but still sharp, still fixing things. His hair was white and his hands shook a little, but his eyes were as bright as ever. What's hard to believe? Sarah asked. That they thought we couldn't do it, Marcus said. He gestured toward the window. Look at what we built. Sarah looked. In the distance, she could see the towers of New Geneva rising from the valley, tall spires of metal and glass that gleamed in the afternoon sun. Between them, moving walkways carried people and cargo. Flying vehicles moved silently through the air on invisible energy fields. Remember when we first found the monitoring station? Marcus asked. Sarah remembered. It had been 20 years after the evacuation. A small group of surface explorers had discovered one of the alien devices hidden in the ruins of old Tokyo. The Federation had left dozens of them behind to watch Earth die, to record humanity's final moments for their databases. But the monitoring stations had been much more than cameras. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been the one to crack the alien computer systems. She was just 30 then, brilliant and stubborn like her mentor Marcus. She had spent 3 years learning to read Federation code, 3 years figuring out how their technology worked. What she found changed everything. The monitoring stations weren't just watching. They were connected to the Federation's main information network. Star charts, technical manuals, communication protocols, even cultural databases from hundreds of alien species. Everything humanity needed to understand their place in the galaxy. Elena's in the lab again today, Sarah said. Still working on the new drive system, Marcus chuckled. That woman never rests. What is she, 70 now? 73? And she says she's close to a breakthrough. They walked through the dome complex toward the central lifts. The underground city was still there, but it had grown. Miles of tunnels connected dozens of settlements. Underground farms fed 2 million people. Fusion reactors provided unlimited clean energy. Manufacturing centers built everything from medical equipment to spacecraft. But the real miracle was what they had done with the alien technology. The Federation built their devices to work in specific ways. Standard designs that never changed. Safe, reliable, boring. Humans had taken those designs apart and put them back together in ways the original builders never imagined. Take the gravity generators, for example. The Federation used them to create artificial gravity on their ships. Simple, practical, useful. Humans had modified them to manipulate gravitational fields in complex patterns. They could create pockets of high gravity for manufacturing ultra-dense materials, or low-gravity zones for easier construction, or gravitational lenses that could bend light and energy in impossible ways. Sarah and Marcus rode the lift down to level 12, where Elena's laboratory took up an entire section. The security door recognized them and slid open silently. Elena Vasquez looked up from a holographic display that showed complex mathematical equations floating in the air. She was small and fierce, with short silver hair and intense dark eyes. Her workspace was organized chaos, with half-built devices and data tablets scattered across every surface. Perfect timing, Elena said. I need you both to see this. She gestured to a metal sphere about the size of a basketball sitting on a test platform. Wires and sensors covered its surface. The sphere hummed with quiet energy. Is that what I think it is? Marcus asked. 0-point energy tap, Elena said proudly. Completely stable. No radiation, no waste products, no fuel requirements. It pulls energy directly from quantum fluctuations in empty space. Sarah stared at the device. How much energy? This little prototype. Enough to power the entire city for a year. A full-size version could power a starship indefinitely. Marcus walked around the sphere, studying it from different angles. The Federation has nothing like this? Nothing even close, Elena said. Their fusion reactors are efficient, but they still need fuel. This is unlimited power from nothing. We're officially beyond anything in their technology database. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. For 50 years, they had been playing catch-up with Federation science. learning their methods, improving their designs, building on their foundations, but this was different. This was something entirely new. "There's more," Elena continued. She led them to another workstation where a sleek device about the size of a dinner plate sat connected to a maze of testing equipment. "Shield generator," she explained. "But not like the static barriers the Federation uses. This one adapts. It analyzes incoming attacks and changes its properties in real time. Kinetic weapons, energy beams, radiation, even exotic matter, it learns and responds." She activated the device. A faint shimmer appeared in the air above it, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. "Watch this," Elena said. She picked up a metal rod and swung it toward the shield. The rod stopped as if it had hit a solid wall, but there was no impact sound, no vibration. The energy was simply absorbed and dispersed. Then she fired a laser pointer at the shield. The red beam bent around the protected area like water flowing around a stone. "How?" Sarah asked. "The shield reads the quantum signature of incoming objects and creates the exact opposite wave pattern. Perfect cancellation. No energy is reflected or transferred. It just stops existing in that space." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "Elena, how far ahead of the Federation are we now?" Elena considered the question carefully. "In raw computing power, we're about equal. In energy generation, we're maybe 50 years ahead. In material science, 100 years. In theoretical physics." She paused. "Marcus, I don't think they ever developed true zero-point manipulation or adaptive field dynamics or quantum state engineering. We're working with principles they don't even know exist." "Why?" Sarah asked. "They've had thousands of years to develop this technology. Why didn't they?" "Because they didn't need to," Marcus said quietly. "Think about it. The Federation controls hundreds of worlds, thousands of species. If they need something, they just take it from one of their member races. If they need workers, they recruit another primitive species. Why innovate when you can just exploit?" Elena nodded. "Exactly. But we had to innovate. We had to do the impossible or die trying. We took their technology and made it better because we had no choice." They walked to the laboratory's main window, which looked out over the manufacturing sector. Automated factories worked around the clock, building components for humanity's first real starships. Not the crude chemical rockets they had used to reach the Moon and Mars decades ago, but true interstellar vessels powered by zero-point energy and protected by adaptive shields. "When will they be ready?" Sarah asked. "The first squadron launches next month," Elena said. 12 ships. Each one faster and more advanced than anything the Federation has ever built." "And then?" Elena smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Then we pay them a visit, see how our old friends are doing, show them what humanity learned while they were away." Sarah thought about David running free under an open sky, about the million other children who would grow up on this reborn Earth, about the humans scattered across Federation space, working in mines and factories, waiting for permission to be treated as equals. The galaxy was about to discover that writing off humanity had been a mistake. A very big mistake. Outside the window, the first starship rolled out of the construction bay. It was beautiful and terrible, sleek as a blade and bristling with weapons that could punch holes in reality itself. Humanity was no longer content to hide underground and fix broken machines. They were ready to reclaim their place among the stars. And this time, they would not be asking permission. Captain Marcus Torres stood on the bridge of the ETS Defiance and watched the stars bend around his ship. The zero-point drive made no sound as it pulled them through space faster than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Behind him, 11 more human ships followed in perfect formation. It had been 200 years since the Federation left Earth to die. Now humanity was coming back. "Contact ahead, Captain," reported Lieutenant Kim from her sensor station. "It's the Kepler 442 system. 3 planets, mining colony on the second world." Marcus nodded. This would be their first contact with Federation space since the evacuation. They had chosen this system carefully. Far from the core worlds, lightly defended, but with enough traffic to spread word of humanity's return. What do you see, Kim? The mining colony is under attack, sir. 12 raider ships attacking the orbital platforms. The local defense forces ... not doing well. On the main screen, Marcus could see the battle playing out in real time. Federation patrol ships fired their weapons at sleek raider vessels that danced between the attacks like insects. The raiders' return fire punched through Federation shields like they were made of paper. How many people on those platforms? Marcus asked. Sensors show about 50,000, sir, mixed species. The raiders are targeting the civilian areas. Marcus felt anger rise in his chest. Some things never changed. The strong still preyed on the weak, and the Federation still couldn't protect its own people. Signal the fleet, he said. All ships to combat formation. Let's show these raiders what real weapons look like. The human ships moved with liquid grace, their hulls shimmering as adaptive shields came online. The raiders noticed them immediately and turned from their attack on the mining platforms. 12 raider ships against 12 human vessels. The odds looked even. They weren't. The first raider ship opened fire on the Defiance with plasma cannons. That could melt through a meter of Federation armor. The energy beams struck the human ship's shields and simply disappeared, absorbed and dispersed by adaptive fields that learned and countered in milliseconds. Marcus smiled grimly. Return fire, quantum disruptors only. Let's not completely vaporize them. The Defiance's weapons were invisible to normal sensors. No energy beams, no projectiles, just focused distortions in spacetime itself. The quantum disruptors reached out and touched the nearest raider ship. The vessel's shields flickered and died. Its engines went dark. Its weapon systems shut down completely. In 30 seconds. The raider ship was dead in space, completely disabled but intact. The other raiders turned their attention to the human fleet, pouring fire into the formation. Plasma beams, kinetic rounds, fusion torpedoes, even some exotic particle weapons that Marcus didn't recognize. All of it struck the human shields and vanished like raindrops hitting the sun. This is almost unfair, commented Commander Sarah Chun from the tactical station. She was the great-granddaughter of the Sarah who had watched the evacuation centuries ago. Should we give them a sporting chance? They were shooting at civilians, Marcus replied. No sporting chances for pirates. The human ships spread out and began their work. Quantum disruptors reached across space and touched each raider vessel in turn. Engines died. Weapons went silent. Life support systems shut down just long enough to convince the crews to surrender, then came back online. In 5 minutes, the entire raider fleet was disabled and drifting. Not destroyed, not damaged, just completely powerless. Their crews sat in darkened ships wondering what kind of weapons could shut down every system at once without leaving a mark. Incoming transmission from the mining platform, Kim reported. They're asking who we are. Marcus straightened his uniform. This would be the moment that changed everything. The first time in 2 centuries that a human spoke to the Federation as an equal, put them through. The screen showed a blue-skinned alien with large eyes and gill slits on his neck. A Keth, Marcus recognized from the old Federation databases. The alien looked confused and grateful and more than a little afraid. Unknown vessels, this is Administrator Feltar of Mining Platform 7. You have saved our lives, but we do not recognize your ship designs. Please identify yourselves. Marcus stepped forward where the camera could see him clearly. This is Captain Marcus Torres of the Earth-Terran ship Defiance. We are humans returning to Federation space after a long absence. The alien's expression changed from confusion to shock to something close to panic. Humans? But your species abandoned this region over 2 centuries ago. You work in the Outer Rim territories now. Some of us do, Marcus said calmly. Others stayed behind to rebuild our homeworld. We thought it was time to visit our old neighbors. Your ships? How did you disable the raiders so easily? Those were Krovar assault vessels with military-grade shields and weapons. Marcus smiled. We've learned a few new tricks since we left. Speaking of which, you might want to collect those raider crews. Their life support will stay functional, but their ships aren't going anywhere without new engines. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge crew of the Defiance to watch as Federation recovery ships moved toward the disabled raiders. Marcus could imagine the conversations happening on those platforms. Humans had returned and they had technology. That made Federation weapons look like stone knives. "Captain," Kim said quietly, "I'm picking up long-range transmissions from the mining platform. They're sending priority messages to Federation Command. What are they saying?" Hard to translate everything, but the key words seemed to be humans, impossible weapons, and immediate assistance required. Commander Chun laughed. "They're calling for help? We just saved them." "They're not asking for help against us," Marcus said. "They're asking for help understanding us. The Federation Council is about to get their first report that humans have developed beyond anything in their databases." Over the next few hours, more Federation ships arrived in the system. First a patrol squadron, then a heavy cruiser, then finally a Federation dreadnought that had probably been pulled from border defense duty. Each new arrival got the same story from the mining platform. Humans had appeared from nowhere with impossible ships and weapons beyond Federation understanding. Marcus let them gather and worry and send their reports. Word would spread through Federation space like wildfire. Humans were back, and they were not the same species that had left Earth as refugees. "Sir," Kim reported, "the dreadnought is requesting communication. Put them through." This time the screen showed a tall, pale humanoid with elegant features and silver hair. A Veilfin, one of the Federation's founding species. The alien wore the uniform of a Federation admiral and tried to project authority, but Marcus could see uncertainty in his eyes. "I am Admiral Kefmiran of the Federation ship Eternal Glory. You claim to be human, but our records show your species as Class C civilization with limited interstellar capability. Please explain these advanced vessels." Marcus considered his answer carefully. Everything he said now would be recorded and analyzed by Federation intelligence. Time to plant the seeds of change. "Admiral, when the Federation offered to evacuate Earth 200 years ago, most of my people accepted gratefully. But some chose to stay behind. We've been busy since then." "Busy doing what?" "Learning, growing, building something better than what we were offered." Marcus gestured to his ship around him. "This is what humans can accomplish when we're motivated." The Admiral's expression grew troubled. "Your weapons technology appears to exceed Federation standards." "How is this possible?" "Because we had to exceed them," Marcus replied simply. "We couldn't just accept what already existed. We had to create something new." The conversation continued for another hour, with the Admiral asking increasingly worried questions about human capabilities and intentions. Marcus gave answers that were truthful but incomplete, letting the Federation draw their own conclusions about what humanity had become. Finally, the Admiral asked the question Marcus had been waiting for. "What do you want from the Federation?" Marcus smiled. "Nothing, Admiral. We're just exploring, seeing how our old neighbors are doing. Maybe offering some assistance where it's needed." "Assistance?" "Pirates attacking mining platforms, for example. The Federation seems to have trouble with that kind of thing." The transmission ended with the Admiral looking deeply troubled. Marcus knew that within days, every major power in Federation space would know that humans had returned with technology that made them obsolete. The galaxy was about to change. Whether that change came peacefully or otherwise would depend on how quickly the Federation adapted to their new reality. Humanity was no longer asking for permission to exist among the stars. They were announcing their arrival as equals. The Federation Council chamber on Nexus Prime had not seen this much excitement in 300 years. Representatives from 200 species filled the massive circular hall, their voices creating a chaos of sound that the translation systems struggled to handle. At the center of it all, High Counselor Vexthari tried to maintain order. The tall, crystalline being's natural glow flickered with stress as report after report flooded in from across Federation space, all saying the same impossible thing: humans were back. and they were not what anyone expected. Order, order! Vextarius' voice boomed through the chamber's speakers. We will address these reports systematically. The Keth representative, Administrator Feltar, who had survived the mining platform attack, stood to speak. His blue skin was pale with nervousness as he faced the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Honored counselors, I witnessed the human ships myself. 12 vessels appeared without warning and defeated a Krovar raider fleet in minutes. Their weapons disabled our attackers without destroying them. No energy signatures, no projectiles, just silence. Then the raider ships stopped working. Murmurs ran through the chamber. The Krovar were known for their military technology. Their ships were among the best in Federation space. Impossible, declared General Folkmar, the Krovar military representative. His massive form filled his council seat as he leaned forward aggressively. Our assault vessels carry shields rated against dreadnought weapons. No human technology could penetrate them. Yet it did, Feltar replied quietly. In seconds. Fleet Admiral Secturion of the Veilfin stood next. His silver hair caught the chamber's lights as he activated a holographic display showing ship specifications. We have analyzed the sensor data from multiple encounters. Human vessels show no recognizable Federation technology. Their power sources are unknown. Their propulsion systems operate on principles our scientists cannot identify. Most concerning, their weapons appear to manipulate spacetime itself. The chamber fell silent. Spacetime manipulation was theoretical at best? The Federation's greatest minds had been working on such concepts for millennia without success. How many ships? Asked Counselor Yolandra of the Nexari Trade Federation. Her insectoid features clicked nervously as she spoke. Unknown, Admiral Secturion admitted. We have confirmed sightings of at least 50 vessels across 12 systems. But they appear and disappear without using known jump points or hyperspace lanes. They could have thousands of ships for all we know. High Counselor Vextharius' glow dimmed as he processed this information. The Federation had catalogued humanity 2 centuries ago as a primitive species barely capable of interplanetary travel. They had offered evacuation to save them from their dying world. Most had accepted, becoming workers and servants across Federation space, but some had stayed behind. And apparently those who remained had been very busy. What of our human populations? Asked Counselor Mordic of the Hegemony Worlds. The ones working in our territories. Have they shown any signs of advanced knowledge? Intelligence Director Kalvesh, a shadowy figure whose species preferred to remain unnamed, spoke from the intelligence section. Our human workers show no awareness of these technological advances. They appear genuinely surprised by reports of advanced human vessels. We believe this represents a separate development by the population that remained on Earth. 200 years, muttered Trade Representative Huxler of the Commerce Guild. How does a species advance so far in just 200 years? The question hung in the air like a challenge to everything the Federation understood about technological development. Most species took millennia to develop spaceflight, thousands of years to achieve interstellar travel. The idea that humans had gone from near extinction to surpassing Federation technology in 2 centuries was absurd. Perhaps, said Dr. Yemtar of the Scientific Assembly, we underestimated their potential when we first made contact. General Folkmar slammed his massive fist on his council seat. Potential? They were dying on a poisoned world. We saved them. Did we? Asked a new voice from the chamber entrance. Every head turned to see a human woman walking calmly down the main aisle. She was middle-aged with short gray hair and wore a simple blue uniform marked with unfamiliar insignia. 2 human men in similar uniforms flanked her, but they were clearly escorts. Not guards. Security forces throughout the chamber reached for weapons, then hesitated. The woman showed no signs of hostility, and killing a diplomatic representative would violate every principle the Federation claimed to uphold. High Counselor Vextharius' glow brightened with surprise and anger. This is a closed session of the Federation Council. Humans are not members and have no right to attend. The woman smiled as she reached the center of the chamber. Admiral Elena Vasquez, representing the Terran Commonwealth. And you're absolutely right, Counselor. We're not members of your Federation. We're here to discuss whether we want to be. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The idea that humans might refuse Federation membership was beyond comprehension. Every species wanted to join the galaxy's most powerful alliance. You request? Membership? Vextari asked, struggling to understand. No, Elena said simply. You need us more than we need you. I'm here to discuss terms for cooperation between equals. General Thokmar stood to his full imposing height. Equals, your species. Was Class C when we left your world? You were refugees begging for salvation. Elena turned to face the general directly. Some of us were. Others chose to save themselves. She gestured, and a small device appeared in her hand. This is a standard human tool. We call it a matter compiler. It can restructure atomic bonds to create any element or compound we need. She pressed a control, and the device began to glow. In seconds, she was holding a perfect diamond the size of her fist. She tossed it to General Thokmar, who caught it reflexively. Your economy is based on scarcity, Elena continued. Mine. Rare elements, refine limited resources, transport them across vast distances. We eliminated scarcity. Any human ship can produce any material we need from cosmic dust. Trade Representative Huxler stood up quickly. That's impossible. The energy requirements alone are handled by our zero-point reactors, Elena said calmly. Unlimited power from quantum fluctuations. No fuel, no waste, no limits? Dr. Yimtar of the Scientific Assembly leaned forward with intense interest. Zero-point energy extraction is theoretical. Our greatest physicists have worked for centuries. Your physicists were thinking too small, Elena interrupted. You tried to extract energy gradually, safely. We learned to tap directly into the quantum substrate. Dangerous at first, but we had nothing to lose. Admiral Secturian activated his display again, showing tactical analysis of human ships. Your vessels appear immune to our weapons? How? Elena smiled. Adaptive shielding. Our defensive fields analyze incoming attacks and generate perfect counterwaves. Your weapons hit our shields and cease to exist in that space. And your weapons? General Thokmar demanded. Quantum disruptors. We manipulate the fundamental forces that hold atoms together. We can shut down any technology without destroying it or... Elena paused meaningfully. We can cause matter to simply stop being matter. The chamber was absolutely silent now. Every representative understood the implications. Humans possessed weapons that could disable any ship instantly, or destroy entire fleets without trace. High Counselor Vextari finally found his voice. What do you want from us? Trade, Elena said simply. Information, friendship, we're not interested in conquest or domination. But we won't be treated as servants either. And if we refuse? General Thokmar asked that. Elena shrugged. Then you refuse. We'll continue exploring the galaxy on our own. Help species that want our assistance. Build relationships with those ready for partnership. She looked around the chamber. But consider this. Every problem you face, every limitation you struggle with, we've already solved. Unlimited energy, unlimited materials, medical technology. That can reverse aging, terraforming systems that can restore dead worlds in decades instead of centuries. She paused to let that sink in. Your choice, counselors. You can work with us as equals or watch us work with your rivals instead. Counselor Yolandra spoke nervously. You would share this technology? With friends, Elena confirmed. With species ready to move beyond exploitation and scarcity. With civilizations willing to grow instead of just consuming. The implications hit every representative at once. Any species that allied with humanity would gain overwhelming advantages over those that didn't. The balance of power in the galaxy was about to shift dramatically. High Counselor Vextaris' glow flickered as he realized that the Federation's 1,000-year dominance might be ending. Not through conquest, but through irrelevance. We need time to discuss these proposals, he said finally. Elena nodded. Of course, we'll be at the orbital station if you need us. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and counselors? The demonstration. Frigate in your outer system is broadcasting its technical specifications on all frequencies. Your scientists might want to take a look. She walked out of the chamber, leaving behind the most powerful beings in the galaxy to contemplate a future, where they were no longer the most advanced civilization in known space. 5 years had passed since Admiral Elena Vasquez walked into the Federation Council chamber and changed the galaxy forever. Now, Captain Sarah Chun stood on the observation deck of Terra Nova Station and watched the impossible made real. The massive ring habitat stretched away in both directions, its inner surface gleaming with cities and forests under an artificial sun. Ships from 100 different species docked at the station's ports every day. Humans, Keth Vailthan, even proud Krovar warriors came seeking trade, knowledge, and partnership with the Terran Commonwealth. Sarah was the great-great-granddaughter of the Sarah who had watched humanity's evacuation centuries ago. She commanded the newest human exploration vessel, the TSS Horizon, and had spent the last 3 years helping build the new order that was spreading across the galaxy. Hard to believe it's only been 5 years, said Dr. James Park, joining her at the observation window. He ran the station's Xenobiology Research Center, where scientists from dozens of species worked together on projects that would have been impossible under the old Federation system. The hardest part wasn't the technology, Sarah replied. It was convincing everyone that cooperation worked better than domination. Through the window, they could see construction crews working on the habitat's newest expansion. Humans and aliens worked side by side, using tools that seemed like magic even to species that had been spacefaring for millennia. Matter compilers created building materials from space dust. Gravity manipulators moved massive structures with the ease of lifting feathers. Quantum computers designed perfect ecosystems that would support thousands of species. Not everyone had embraced the changes. The Federation's core worlds had resisted at first, clinging to their old hierarchies and traditions. They had threatened sanctions, blockades, even military action against species that allied with humanity. But those threats had lost their power when half the Federation's member races discovered they could prosper better as Commonwealth partners than as Federation subjects. The hegemony worlds had tried to forcibly stop their populations from emigrating to human space. That had lasted exactly 1 day. A single human frigate had appeared over their capital world and transmitted a simple message: release them or be released from relevance. When the hegemony fleet moved to intercept, the human ship had disabled every vessel simultaneously without firing a shot. The emigration restrictions ended immediately. Some Federation leaders had finally attempted direct military action. Admiral Corthulan of the Krovar had led a battle fleet to attack the human colony at Kepler 438. He commanded 200 ships, including the Federation's most powerful dreadnoughts. The human defense consisted of 12 vessels. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it ended, the entire Krovar fleet hung dead in space, their crews unharmed but their ships completely powerless. Admiral Corthulan had been invited aboard the human flagship for tea and a discussion about better ways to resolve disagreements. He had become one of humanity's strongest advocates after that conversation. Dr. Park, we have visitors, announced the station's AI. The delegation from the Outer Rim territories has arrived. Sarah and James walked to the docking bay to greet their guests. These were representatives from the galaxy's edge, where small colonies struggled to survive beyond Federation protection. Pirates, resource shortages, and isolation had made life desperate for millions of beings. The delegation leader was a thin, gray-skinned humanoid named Veltran, whose species Sarah didn't recognize. He moved carefully, like someone who had learned that showing weakness could be fatal. Captain Chun, Veltran said formally, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We represent 47 worlds that wish to discuss joining your Commonwealth. Of course, Sarah replied warmly. But first, let me show you what membership really means. She led the delegation through the station's main corridor, where the artificial gravity kept everyone comfortable regardless of their species' homeworld conditions. Through transparent sections, they could see the habitat's interior stretching away like a landscape under an eternal afternoon sky. This station houses 2 billion beings, Sarah explained. Every species that wants to be here. Member. Castes, no servant races, no restrictions based on when you achieved spaceflight. Veltron's eyes widened. 2 billion? How do you feed so many? Dr. Park activated a wall display showing the station's agricultural sections. Vast towers of plants grew under carefully controlled conditions, tended by automated systems that could adjust light, nutrients, and atmosphere for any crop from any world. Vertical farms produce food continuously, Park explained. Matter compilers can create any nutrients we need. Fusion reactors provide unlimited energy. No one goes hungry here. They pass through the medical center where human doctors worked, alongside alien healers to develop treatments that combine the best knowledge from every species. Diseases that had plagued certain races for millennia were being cured by techniques learned from completely different biologies. Your people look healthy, observed another delegate, an insectoid being whose own species clearly showed signs of malnutrition. Medical care is free for everyone, Sarah said simply. We learned long ago that healthy people are productive people, and productive people build better societies. The tour continued through research laboratories where scientists from different worlds collaborated on projects impossible for any single species. A Keth engineer was working with a human physicist to develop new terraforming techniques. Veilfin artists collaborated with human programmers to create entertainment that appealed to multiple senses across species barriers, but the most impressive stop was the fabrication center. The massive facility hummed with quiet energy as matter compilers worked continuously. Raw materials went in one end, cosmic dust, asteroid debris, even waste products, and finished goods came out the other. Starships, medical equipment, building materials, works of art, anything anyone needed. We don't have an economy based on scarcity anymore, Sarah explained to the amazed delegates. When you can make anything from anything, the only real resource is knowledge, and knowledge grows when it's shared. Veltron stared at a matter compiler that was assembling a complete atmospheric processor in real time. What do you ask in return for this technology? Sarah smiled. Partnership. We share our discoveries, you share yours. We help you build better worlds, you help us explore new possibilities. No tribute, no servitude, just cooperation between equals. The Federation demands tribute from all member worlds, another delegate said bitterly. Resources, workers, loyalty to their core worlds. We're not the Federation, Sarah replied firmly. We learned something they never did. A galaxy works best when everyone prospers, not when a few dominate the many. They ended the tour in Sarah's office, which looked out over the habitat's central plaza. Beings from dozens of species walked together, children of different races played in the same parks, and the sounds of 100 languages created a harmony that spoke of peace and possibility. What happened to the Federation? Veltron asked. Quietly, they're adapting, Sarah said. Some faster than others. The smart ones are reforming their governments, sharing power, treating their people better. The stubborn ones are watching their populations leave for Commonwealth worlds. She called up a galactic map that showed the current political situation. Red areas marked traditional Federation space, blue showed Commonwealth territories, and green indicated newly independent worlds that worked with both groups. The blue areas keep growing, observed one delegate. Freedom is contagious, Sarah replied. When people see what's possible, they want it for themselves. Dr. Park activated another display showing construction projects across human space. We're building 3 more ring habitats like this one, plus terraforming projects on 20 dead worlds. Space elevators for worlds that want them. Orbital cities for species that prefer space to planetary surfaces. And you'll help us build the same things? Veltron asked. If you want them, Sarah confirmed. But we'll also help you develop whatever works best for your people. Maybe you prefer underground cities or floating platforms or something we haven't thought of yet. The goal isn't to make everyone like us. It's to help everyone become the best version of themselves. The delegation spent another week at Terra Nova Station, touring facilities and meeting with representatives from other Commonwealth worlds. They saw former Federation colonies that had tripled their population and prosperity in just a few years. They met with ex-Federation officials who now worked as equals rather than overlords. When they left, all 47 worlds had signed partnership agreements with the Commonwealth. Standing again at the observation window, Sarah watched their ships depart carrying data cores full of human technology and human teachers ready to help implement it. In 6 months, those worlds would be transformed. In a year, they would be helping other struggling colonies. Admiral Vasquez would be proud, Dr. Park said. Elena had died the previous year, finally succumbing to age despite the best medical care humanity could provide. She always said the goal wasn't to rule the galaxy, Sarah replied. It was to free it. Through the transparent aluminum, Sarah could see Earth hanging in the distance like a blue jewel. The same world the Federation had written off.